Hello, everyone, and welcome back to We Know You Know, a podcast about Psych. I am one of your co hosts, Barb, and I am joined by Matt.
Hello.
Today, we're going to talk about season 3, episode 5 of Psych. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. That's so important.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to our two big groups. On Facebook, we have the official Psych Fanatics Facebook group. There is also the podcast Facebook group where we post updates about videos. And we also are bigger on Reddit as well. They have the Psych subreddit on there and post our updates in there too. So whichever you prefer, go ahead and follow us there. There's a huge community there. I think 70,000 people on the subreddit, and I think we got over 10,000 now in the Psych Fanatics of Facebook group. So check it out.
It's awesome that many people love the show.
Mm-hmm.
Psych is awesome.
So we do have a comment that I missed last week. It was actually for episode 2, and I just completely didn't see it in the updates. So let's go ahead and read this one. It's another one from Michael, and
Okay.
this was on Murder Anyone Bueller, season 3, episode 2. And here it is. Barb, I gotta say, I think you're in the wrong when it comes to Abigail.
Wow.
Of course, Juliet is who
Wow.
Sean is ultimately meant to end up with, but Abby and Sean have great chemistry together. This relationship develops Sean and shows him what it's like to be in a real quality relationship rather than the one date only relationship he normally has in earlier seasons of the show. I don't think we get Schulz without first having Sean and Abby. Shabby? And I think that he makes a valid point, Barb. What do you
All
think?
right. I will give you that. I think that's a very good perspective. And maybe my mind is just generally on the end goal a little too much. Because I feel like he has this great chemistry with Jules. But I do see where you're coming from. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was like his first real relationship. And he's like, oh, actually, you know
Yeah.
what? If I like the person, this isn't too bad. What would have happened if Sean didn't date Abby and he just went straight to dating Juliet?
Been as nice to Jules or like known even how to be in the
He
relationship.
could have messed
I
it
get
up.
it. Michael pointed something very good
That's a
out.
fantastic point.
It
Thank
it
you.
is a very good point, and maybe now I will just have to change my perspective a little bit on it. And I do really like Rachel Lee Cook. I really like her. I love her in her Hallmark movies. I loved her in She's All That. I really do like her as an actress. Okay, so maybe moving forward, I will be less hard on them. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
And on that note, last night, me and the wife watched Breakfast Club, and it was great. With this episode, episode 2, like fresh in my brain, I was seeing a bunch of things that I didn't even notice. Like the one that stood out the most was the way that he said scholarship whenever he made the accusation on stage. Yo, scholarship.
That's a Bender reference. Yeah.
I completely missed that one before. And yeah, there's a couple other ones that I saw, but yeah, it was
Well,
great.
the dancing for sure.
Well, the dance I knew was one, but I didn't know, like,
Mhm.
which in particular. Like, I knew that was a reference, though. Um, but yeah, it
You
was great.
know, talking about that like really makes me bitter that Emilio never did the show.
I know, and he was so good in it. His
Oh,
performance
yeah.
was on point.
Yeah. Well, he stopped acting for a long time. He was directing and stuff, but he just recently did a new Mighty Ducks movie.
Mhm.
If they could get him for for the next movie,
Him
it
and
would
Judd
be
Nelson, man. Judd
insane.
Nelson was so good.
Oh, yeah. Judd
So good
Nelson's
in it.
great.
He killed it.
They all did. There's
And
not a
then Ali
single one
Sheedy,
of them.
seeing her after Psych, those 2 characters almost seem loosely, connected with
Related,
their
yeah.
strangeness and the vibe or, like, the persona she gets in for that character on Breakfast Club
Mhm.
and the character from Psych. There is a strange, like, connection there.
I really thought that you can't say any of the performances in Breakfast Club were bad. They
Mhm.
were all really good, and that's part of the reason. Like, if one of them had been just awful, I don't think it would have held up the way that it has. Like, the story is so good.
Such a good story.
Yeah,
So
it's,
good.
like, true no matter when. We always ask if the Psych
Mhm.
episodes hold up over time. Breakfast Club holds up over time. It's like
Mhm.
always true no matter what. Everyone has insecurities. Everyone's trying to fit in with other people. It especially at that high school time. So, yeah,
Mhm.
so good. I know
Yep.
my kids who are 20 and 17 now both love that movie too.
The next question is what John Hughes movie am I gonna see next?
Oh,
I'm on a bit of a run here.
if y'all have suggestions for him,
Between
post
Ferris
them.
Bueller, Breakfast Club. I'm debating whether I wanna do 16 Candles or what is it? Was it Pretty in Pink? Is that it? Yeah, because I haven't seen Pretty in Pink, but I haven't seen 16 Candles in a long time, but I remember I did like it. And we also have the connection to episode 2 of Psych.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of John Hughes movies that are insane good.
It was good, yeah.
Oh, they all have such good feel to them. Uncle Buck, that's another good one.
I think we might be getting off topic, though. We are here for season 3, episode 5, titled "Disco Didn't Die, It Was Murdered." This episode was released August 15th, 2008. And Barb, who are our writers and directors?
So this episode was written by two of our favorites, Steve Franks and Saladin Patterson, and it was directed by Mel Damsky. Now, I knew just by the title of this episode that it's a good one, but this is gonna back up some reasons as to why. Mel Damsky directed 23 episodes of Psych. Some of our favorites: Spelling Bee, Forget Me Not, Black and Tan. All these really great episodes he directed. I have high hopes that this one's gonna be up there in the pineapple ratings. We shall see.
Yeah, I remember, a little bit from it, and in particular, I love how much Henry we get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel like there are gonna be a lot of callbacks that it's a good thing I'm here for because you will not get them, but that's
Mhm.
okay. I'm here. And okay, so let's first start off with a synopsis, Matt. What do we got?
Henry's biggest case has been reopened, and the chief has put Psych on the case. The catch is that Henry can't be involved this time. Sean has to stand up to his dad and take charge so Psych doesn't get thrown off the case and let a murderer go free.
Ooh.
So,
Okay. All right. A Henry heavy episode. I like it.
mhm,
Okay, so let's dive into the episode, Matt.
let's do it.
I don't know how many of you have watched 70s like cop or detective shows. The music that they're playing right now, it's so specific to that time, like what they played. I can remember shows like Vegas with Dan Tana and like different cop shows, even Charlie's Angels and stuff like that. This is the kind of music that started like it was in every episode of that.
Mhm.
It already has that feel.
The opening scene is of a young Henry about to kick in the door, and inside someone is making a bomb. He's got his whole lab set up, and they kick in the door, and Henry has his moment where he gets to talk down to the guy and the guy has the opportunity to blow them up or to get out of there alive. And Henry stands up to him. It has a pretty cool scene. I actually always like that. Yeah, he's like, you have the right not to get shot.
Make the wrong move and you lose that right.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool line, really cool scene.
And then Henry gets his like commendation for arresting the guy.
So after the flashback scene, where we see Henry modestly kind of accept his accommodations, we are in real time again, and the chief is calling the guys into her office. Sean is being followed by what looks like a reporter or a journalist.
Apparently, Sean reached out to her to get an interview. Oh. So the chief gives Sean a case. We're about
327.
3 minutes, 27 seconds in, and the chief is explaining to them that they've reopened some cases, and the biggest one is this case, and
Henry's
she hasn't
biggest one.
yet. Well, she hasn't given a lot of detail yet, other than to say, here's the case information. Normally, we wouldn't have you guys come in and really look at this, but this one is special. And Sean opens it to find that it was Henry's case. Right after the theme song plays, we're at about 4 minutes, 30 seconds. And that's when the chief tells them that under no circumstances is Henry to be involved in this investigation, that he cannot have anything to do with it.
Yeah, this was his case in the past, and he's no longer a cop, so it could
Mhm.
be looked at as like somebody's like tampering with the case if they find new evidence, and Henry's the one who found it. So they're trying to
Right.
avoid any legal problems.
Exactly.
And the chief gets a serious again. She does this occasionally, and she tells him that if Henry is found to be involved at all in the case, not only will she not be hiring them anymore, but she will press charges for obstructing justice for ruining their case. So yeah, it is real stakes, and that's one thing I love about the chief too is the way that they set her up. They give her these occasional like heartfelt moments, but then she's like tough as nails the rest of the time.
Very authoritative. Yeah.
Mhm. But they do give they're not she's not always like that. They do give her those really nice scenes that humanize her some and
Well,
make her
they
still
wrote a
feel a part of the
female
gang.
well. They wrote a female well.
Yeah.
That's what they
Mhm.
did. Yeah, she's authoritative, yet
Well, to be honest, like regardless of the gender for this scenario, like it's just what a good like captain does. Like
yeah, but you didn't
you
always
respect
have that.
them
You didn't
and
always have
they
that for females, though, in particular. You
sure.
didn't really always get that.
Right,
There
they kinda
did,
go to the, they go to the far they go to the extreme and
right.
make them, like, hard as nails all the time, and then nobody likes them. But, yeah, no, they did I think they did a really good job balancing that and giving her actual moments that show, like, it's not just written that she cares, but, we actually feel like she cares about the guys, so, yeah,
Yeah,
she does a good job with it, especially with her acting on it too.
yeah.
So 5 minutes, 30 seconds in, the guys have gone back to the psych office to figure out what their next step is. And Henry is already there. He somehow heard that the case was reopened and he wants in. Henry is very agitated about this. He does not like that it's open.
Yeah.
He's very confident that he he's very confident that he got it right. He even kind of flips out on Gus for a second
Yeah,
there.
Gus says, like, everyone makes mistakes, and he said there was no mistake.
Look behind Sean here. So we're in the psych office and Sean is sitting behind his desk or sitting at his desk.
Uh-huh. What
And
is that
behind
red
the
thing?
desk, we have a spud gun where you essentially push it into the gun, you get this little tiny piece of potato, or you push the gun into the potato and you get this little
How do you
piece,
know that's what
and
that
then you
is?
because I've seen one before. But I was more intrigued by the giant lock with skeleton keys. Like, what is that even for? Like, it doesn't strike me
Maybe
as like a
Gus brought it
decorative
in.
piece.
Maybe Gus brought it in,
That's
he
a
has a
valid point, but
thing.
why is it on Sean's side of the
I
office?
don't know, it's definitely interesting.
And it just doesn't seem like the type of thing that Sean would have as, like, decor that just sits on a shelf. I don't know, that's weird. Well, we get some information about the case, a little slip up where, Henry says, "Play your games, but, this case was very important to a lot of people who could have died if he blew up our headquarters." So, it sounds like from that, like, this was a very big deal. They knew that this guy was trying to attack the police department, and they were essentially hunting him down, and Henry somehow, cracked the case and found the guy before he did, um, which is actually intense. And I think that line kind of shapes out more of what kind of case this was before.
And they've decided to go to the DA, and Henry is already there.
So we get our first Gus nickname, although this time Henry beats Sean to the point. Henry, so they walk up to talk to the guy behind the counter, and Henry sees what Sean is doing and cuts Sean off, and he says, "This is my partner Methuselah Honeysuckle."
So Sean goes up, he says, "I'm Sean Spencer from the head psychic for the Santa Barbara Police Department." And Henry goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, and this is his partner, Methuselah Honeysuckle."
And that must make me Old Scratch Johnson. I don't know what that reference is, but it was funny the way that they did it here.
That's fantastic. I love that Henry jumped in and did it. That was so cool that Henry did it.
But they're here to get the court transcripts for the original case. The guy kind of gives him some crap and tries to like blow him off a little bit. Sean, kind of does his thing where he like looks around the room for clues, and he finds out that the guy is going to have a kid, and he starts to do his vision, and where he like kind of like reads the guy and kind of amazes the guy and tries to get him to
Charms
give
him
him what he
into
wants.
getting what he
Charms
wants,
him,
yeah.
yeah.
Once again.
Henry jumps in. reads the room just like Sean did, and then he just gets straight to the point, though.
Yeah, he
No
beats him right to the
nuance. There's
punch.
no charm. He's just like, "Oh, you're gonna have a kid. That's great. Don't name him Sean." 9 minutes. They kind of lawyer the guy and tell him, due to the Freedom of Information Act, these transcripts are freely available. There's no reason why we can't have them. Sean pulls Henry aside, and he stands up to him. He gives it to him. He's like, "This is our case. We're hired, so if something goes wrong here, or we get caught with you touching this case, we're the ones who are going to get in trouble here. So you need to follow some ground rules if you're going to stay involved in this." And Henry accepts it, and he agrees, which is it's cool.
I don't know why they didn't have a conversation here, though, about like this is kind of baffling because the chief was really specific about if if he's involved in this, it could be damaging if he's involved in it.
Uh-huh.
Why is that not the focus? Is Sean like just so like I want the power over him right now? Or I mean, why isn't it like, Dad, you
I think
realize
he thinks
that
it's a lost cause. I think he thinks
well, he
like
knows
at
Henry's gonna
least I'm
just
gonna see him if he's
right.
here versus him working this like in the background.
Yeah. Okay.
But Henry leaves peacefully. They continue their case back at the psych office. Hey Barb, what's a memeo machine? You probably used one all the time.
I actually did not, but it was a way of
Oh,
making copies.
okay.
I always used like a Xerox machine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, wasn't sure what time period those are from.
So, okay. The chief calls once they're at the psych office. We're about 11 minutes in, and I love the whole exchange, the whole phone conversation. You can tell that she's like, your dad was at the DA's office. Why? And Sean's like, no, that was Phil Collins. Henry's in the background going, I don't look anything like Phil Collins. He does.
Does he? I
Yeah,
don't
he
even know
does.
what Phil Collins looks like.
He's like, I don't look anything like Phil Collins. Then they talk about, he's like, yeah, he was having invisible touch. We'll go over a lot of these references at the end, but
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he kind of looks like Phil Collins.
now Phil Collins is a bit older than Corbin.
Well, we're at about the 11-minute mark, and they're discussing details now that they have the transcripts. And Henry's telling them about the evidence that they got. The main piece of evidence, and actually the only piece that was originally used because of how important it was the bomb making workshop. They literally walked in on the guy making a bomb, and they caught him in the act. And that was all they needed to get the conviction the first time around. But the issue was with the search warrant. The search warrant was called into question, and therefore they can't use anything that was in that room to try him. So Henry says that they did have other evidence that wasn't even needed before, so they can still use that. So that's where they're going to be starting the case. So we're about 12 minutes, 20 seconds in, and Sean, Henry, and Gus have showed up at the evidence warehouse to look at the leftover usable evidence to kind of see if they can get some direction on where to go next. The first thing they have is a ticket from a pawn shop. Eugene pawned something before he was arrested.
And they still have the ticket for it to go get it. 13 minutes in, and we're at the station, and the chief is giving cases to Jules and Lassie, and they're not loving them.
One is exciting. It was a diamond smuggling case, and the other one is a plastics factory robbery.
Though they don't look too excited about either of them.
They're each supposed to get one, and they got to figure out who gets the cool one. All right, we get some McNabb.
I love McNabb.
So what they do here is they try to manipulate McNabb into taking the boring case so that they can work the interesting case together. They really sell it though. They pump it up and make it sound important and cool, and they really trick McNabb in here.
Yeah. I love McNabb. Such a good
He's such a good character. I love this. Another kind of a funny little bit with this one I really loved. The guys take the pawn ticket to the pawn shop that is still around, and they are talking to the owner. He mentions that this is a really old ticket back from when his dad ran the place, and he's going to have to go check the box in the back to see if they still have it, the thing that was pawned. And whenever he walks out back, Sean and Gus have this little bit that's amazing. And essentially, Sean is like freaking out, like, "Dude, what's the box? What's in it? Like, is it like a
Gus goes
secret catacombs under a church, like in National Treasure? Is it a room filled with objects and things?"
Gus is like, "Sean, I think it's just a box."
Yeah.
I love
What do you think the box is? So the pawnbroker brings out literally just a regular cardboard box, and Gus is like, "See, just a box." He's like, "What do you think's inside the box?" And then he kind of flips out. He's like, "Dude, I can't calm down, man. There's stuff in there." I get it, man. I get it. It's like going to thrift stores. You just don't know what's in there. Could be anything.
Old stuff, shiny stuff, secret stuff. I
After he
love
says
it.
that, then he's like, "How come you're not as excited about this as I am?" And then and Gus says, "Because I'm not a squirrel." Oh god. Oh.
So Sean has had like a little psychic episode in front of the pawn guy. He's determined that the ticket that was brought in by this guy years ago was for his car. And that there was a VIN number, and he's like made some theatrical thing out of it. And Henry's like, whose benefit was that for? And he says, don't ever question my methods in front of a civilian. So essentially, we're at 15 minutes, 48 seconds. So essentially, they know that doing more of the investigating here is going to increase the chances that Gus will be seen by someone he works with and that Henry would be seen and recognized by somebody. So Sean gets the idea to go in disguises. So they're looking at all these like 70s clothes, and here's where it begins. They are going to walk. Oh, I see the shoes already, and I can't.
That great 70s,
Oh,
like, disco music. Oh my god.
Gus has got on Gus Gus has got on a vest and the little round sunglasses. Henry and Sean are in some aviators. Henry's got on a little hat. And the jeans and the belt that Sean's wearing. I can't. Great, great, great 70s looks.
So we're at 16 minutes, 30 seconds, and the guys have found the junkyard that the car
Yeah.
was taken to. The guy won't even let them look at it unless they buy it, but he just wants to get rid of it, it looks like. So Sean takes the lead here, and they have a little huddle trying to figure out how much money they can spend on this car.
And it's like completely covered in dust and dirt. It's like,
Oh yeah, it's trash.
yeah. Oh, Sean. Sean is not a good negotiator.
Yeah, and Henry tried to go and buy the car and talk to the guy and, presumably negotiate him down some, but Sean took the lead because it's his case, and he ended up just giving the guy all of their money for it. Ah, Shawnee boy. Mm. So now that they own the car, they are giving it like a bit of search down. Or they're searching it. And Gus explains that it's his car and all of his same car rules apply to this one.
So Henry has found, do you know what that is, Matt?
Film.
Okay. I'm very happy that you know that. So
Super
Henry
old
has
film.
found in the car a smuggler's hatch. That's what he's called it. And inside of it, he's found a roll of film that has not been developed.
Sean also found a sticker on a decal that was kind of torn off the car, but there's still a little bit of it left, and I believe that that's going to come into play too.
Meanwhile, Gus is trying to make the car look good. It's hysterical.
So 19 minutes in, they have gotten the canister that they found developed, and amongst the photos is one in particular that has a couple people posing in front of a flag, and it has they're all holding AK-47s. So they are wanting to figure out who these other people are, and that's going to be their next lead.
Can we look at how on point Sean's hair is? Like, it's ridiculous.
It is, and I think the glasses work fine.
Yeah, the aviators work great
Mhm.
on him, and the
It's
hair is
that
just it's
paisley
on
shirt that's
point.
rough, and
Well,
that
it's that
collar.
collar, it's that 70s big collar. That's
Mhm.
what yeah.
Henry has a lead, somebody that was kind of like a narc from back in the day named Pookie, who most likely would know about anything or anybody involved with stuff like this back in that time period. They're heading out to Pookie's business.
It's making him walk like they did in the 70s. So now they have made their way to the Top Flight dance club where it's the 70s every night. It's really 70s here. We've got disco music playing. It's like a throwback. It's a really big throwback. I absolutely love how through the whole conversation, oh my gosh, it is so like 70s TV. The way he's talking, wow. They did a good job with it.
Yeah, the guy that got playing Pookie is like really good. He's in character very well.
Yeah.
So they talked to Pookie, and he kind of had his ear to the ground the whole time and was kind of in some stuff. So he has information on these people. What he's telling them is that the other people in the photo, the ones that Eugene used to hang out with, or not Eugene, Derek and Melanie, and they were a part of SAG, which was Soldiers Against Government, like a group of essentially kind of anarchists. And this is where Henry kind of loses his cool a little bit. He gets upset and kind of walks away because this means that he was wrong. It wasn't Eugene. Eugene wasn't the mastermind of anything. He was a part of a group, and he took
And
the
he m
fall for the group. And
and
this whole
Henry
time they've
missed
been out there.
something. Yeah.
Yep. Henry's legacy is kind of messed up at this point. 23 minutes in, we're with Lassie and Jules now, and we're going to catch up on their case. 23 minutes in, they are walking in, and they have cuts and scrapes all over them, and they're very upset. And they catch up with Buzz. We find out that their diamond smuggling case that they were really excited about has taken a bit of a turn and is turned into like exotic animal smuggling, specifically a train car filled with marmosets that Lassie ended up shooting at.
They were
Um, and they
he
kind of are
scratches
attacking
all
them.
over him.
Their plan is not going quite as well. Buzz, on the other hand, lucked out. His boring plastics case has turned into a front for real life sea pirates. Buzz has set up to work in tandem with the Coast Guards.
And now they wanna take it from him.
Now that they have an
So
exciting
mean.
case, yeah.
So mean.
So they tell Buzz that you have to have a certain level of clearance to work in tandem with the Coast Guard. And then they end up taking the case from him. Ah, they're terrible. So around the 26-minute mark, Sean and Gus stop by to check in with Henry to see how he's doing, and he's still down in the dumps a little bit. He's
He's
still
taking it
upset with
hard.
himself. Yeah, yeah, he's disappointed in himself for making a mistake and not catching it. And then, I think a little bit of having like the hubris to not think that he can even make a mistake whenever it came to this case, like questioning it or second guessing it.
Mhm.
Even going into it now after it got overturned, he was very confident that he did not make any errors. So they decide that they have to cheer him up. They have to get him reinterested. They have to make him think that they can't solve it without him. And the first
But they
step
have
of
to
that is
trick him into
tricking
that.
him to get him involved again to begin with.
Yeah.
So
So
they're all riding together.
they think he thinks that they're gonna be making some bookshelves.
So on their ride, they end up getting to a house. The address that they have, or that the car was, I believe the car was registered to this address. And they're just waiting there, and they see a car come up behind them, then flip around and take off. So now we got a high speed pursuit.
With the 70s music in the background.
Uh huh. Eventually, they catch up to the car, and they get them cornered. And they're kind of this like standoff where they're trying to approach the car to see who's inside. And Gus is armed with the laser level that Henry brought along. And when they finally get the door open, it looks like just a suburban couple,
Uh-huh.
Derek and Melanie. This is also our guest star. Derek, I'm familiar with, named Jerry Burns.
Yes.
So after going back to their house and sitting down and having a conversation with them, we find out that Derek and Melanie didn't actually know that it was them. All they saw was the Mercury Cougar that they were driving, which was Eugene's old car, and they got scared because apparently Eugene thought that they sold him out as like the patsy to take the fall, and they thought that he might have come back for revenge. Now, while they're talking to them, Sean does recognize in their mail the insignia. It's a letter from their alumni association. So they got their next lead.
Oh, okay, so that was a telling moment. After they leave the house, we're at 30 minutes in, and they're outside of the car. Sean is trying to convince Henry to get back involved in the case, and he says, "You know what? You messed up 30 years ago. Get over it." And Henry says, "You know what? Not everybody is as comfortable with screwing up." And Sean says, "Well, maybe that's because my mistakes were the only thing ever pointed out to me." Ouch.
Hmm. So they're kind of bickering, and Gus kind of jumps in and voice of reason to try and get everybody on the same page.
He points out that they need each other.
We're about at 32 minutes now, and the guys have their next lead. They're heading over to the college to see if Eugene, Melanie, and Derek, because they all went to school together, had any teachers in common that could be recruiting these young kids into this group.
Now they're going in to see Dr. Richard Colbert, the only professor that they all had in common. And they discover him in his office, and he's dead.
Around 33 minutes in, after they find the body, they end up calling the police. Now we're following up with Juliet and Lassiter as they walk in, and they're talking to Buzz as well, who's with them, about updates on the case that they stole from him. And that one has apparently gone south as well. Working with the Coast Guard was
Serves
not as
them right.
cool as they expected. They got into a bit of a kerfuffle with them, and essentially once they get 3 miles off the coast, they get into international waters, which is out of their jurisdiction, so they weren't even able to interact with the pirates at all. So they're bitter about that too. So this is where their cases are intersecting. Sean's having a charade vision with Henry in front of the guys, and there's a lot of 70s dialogue here, which is fantastic. But Henry has portrayed to him that there's another bomb. Essentially, the idea now is that Eugene came back here to shut up this professor, and while he was in this chem lab, he used the chemicals and resources to build a new bomb, and they think he's going to go back to Derek and Melanie to close the circle. And when all the cops pull up here, they find Eugene was in the backyard and he has a bomb with him. So they have Eugene in handcuffs, and he's saying that he didn't make this bomb. He's saying that Melanie and Derek invited him over, and that he's being framed. And while they're here, Sean notices that Melanie, her finger is not cut like she said it was whenever they were there interrogating him the first time.
Right.
So they know that she was lying. So during the wrap up here, Sean is explaining so far that the idea was that Melanie and Derek got into this when they were in school, and it got really big. It got over their heads, and they wanted out. They just wanted to go back to normal lives. The idea is that they framed Eugene for the bombings, and when his thing got overturned, they thought that they were worried that he was going to try and get everything out in the open, or come back to them for revenge, or try and get the real what really happened out. And actually, I do kind of see that, because if he was wrongly convicted, there could even be like a lawsuit in there. Um, like he could get a payout, and
Yeah.
that could actually turn his life around. So I definitely could see that that's a possibility for a motive. But essentially, Melanie and Derek wanted to keep their life the way it is. They've got great jobs, they've got a house, the whole shebang. So they go after the professor, and they killed him, and then they set it up to frame Eugene for that as well, and then they were going to try and kill Eugene to close that loop and tie up all the loose ends. But they don't
Mhm.
currently have any evidence that this is the case. They don't really have anything on Derek and Melanie at the moment. So Sean, in all of his wisdom, reaches down and activates the bomb and sets a timer, with the idea being that the person who made the bomb could disarm it.
Gus
Gus
runs.
takes off running.
I think it's gonna be Melanie. Oh, no, it's him.
And they wait until 5 seconds left, which I think is a nice touch, and Derek jumps down and disarms the bomb. I do think it's a nice touch that they didn't wait till 1 second left. I hate when they do that in movies.
Yeah.
We get a nice little
Aw.
scene at the end here with Henry telling Sean, "Thank you for helping." And when we come back in, Sean is looking for the journalist to finish his interview, and we see that she is sitting down with Lester and Juliet, and they are stealing his thunder. The journalist is listening to them, interviewing them instead of Sean.
Gus is still digging, driving this car.
Mhm. Yeah, the last scene of the episode, we have Sean just jamming in the car, and, he's really feeling it.
That's Gus, not Sean.
And then the car kinda craps out on him. Alright, so episode is over, and this is the part for anybody who's new to the show, where we give the episode our pineapple ratings. We do 1 through 5, and 1 pineapple is skip it, don't even wanna see it. 5 pineapples, we love it so much we could watch it on repeat. Barb, what is your pineapple rating for Disco Didn't Die? It Was Murdered?
I liked this episode a lot. This had that same sort of feel as the other Mel Damsky episodes had to me. A lot of great character development in it. Well, maybe not development, but like all the characters played to their true characteristics in this episode, with maybe the exception of Jules. It sort of seemed out of character for her to do something like take the case away from McNabb. It feels like she would have not kind of been that selfish about it.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I thought the characters were all really true. I liked what was going on with Henry and Sean in this episode a lot. And I loved the whole throwback thing that they did. There was a lot of great banter in it. I'm going 4 pineapples for this episode. What about you, Matt? What are you feeling?
I am debating between 3 and 4.
I think you gotta go 4. I mean, and
So,
maybe
I
part of
was
what gets
looking
lost for you, though, is that it was nostalgic for me because I remember watching shows that all had this, like, the music,
Mhm.
the look, all of that. Anyway, I don't know. Go on. Sorry.
Well, I was looking back at our other 4 pineapples, for season 2. We had
Okay.
Black and Tan, Crime of Fashion, Old and the Restless, Meat is Murder, and 65 Million Years Off. And I'm thinking I mean, there was a lot of funny bits in there. Um,
Go with your gut, man.
I
Go with
think
your gut.
I don't think I'm being too generous with it. I think I'm gonna give it a 3 pineapple.
Okay.
I liked
Alright.
it. Like, we didn't get as much from Lassie and Jules. We did get a little bit of Buzz, and we got a lot of Henry, we got a lot of Sean and Gus. There were several bits in there that was good. We got the nickname, we got some Sean standing up to, his dad,
Mhm.
and, we didn't get a pineapple. I don't recall seeing a
I
pineapple in
was
there.
just gonna say I don't remember a pineapple in this episode.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing it, but, we got a lot of other things. So I
I'm gonna
think I'm gonna
search it
give
up
this
right
one 4
now.
pineapples as well. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna land. Supposedly, there was a pineapple in Melanie and Derek's kitchen. There it is.
Oh, there it
Oh
is,
my
in the
god, that
windowsill.
one is hidden. Yeah,
Wow,
there's a plant
that's
in front of it, and the crown of the pineapple kind of blends in with the plant.
yeah, 29 minutes, 12 seconds.
That was a good one. Wow, alright, we missed that one.
I will say in our defense, easy to miss because it literally looks like a plant.
Yeah, it blends in very well. The window
Yeah.
behind it is like plants outside, and yeah, it blends. Well, let's continue with our notable points here. So, Barb, you were asking about an "all yeah" moment. I
Yeah.
don't have one off the top of my head. This one wasn't a super exciting moment.
I oh, I have one.
Okay, what you got?
Alright. I loved when they all first dressed up and they come walking out. This for me is sort of like the moment in Black and Tan when they're walking down the street.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Out in the 70s clothes, and it was, like, set to music, and it was sort of slow motion. That was such an "Oh, yeah" moment for me. I loved that.
Yeah,
I
I could
loved
see that. Okay.
Okay. What about "Come On Son"? You got a "Come On Son"?
Come On Son would probably have to be a smaller one would be whenever Sean lost all the money on the car. But I think the bigger one would have to be whenever Henry realizes that he missed it. Like he missed it.
Yeah.
Like whenever he walks away from Pookie and he's just like he looks just really disappointed in himself. Mm.
Yeah, for me, it was when Lassie and
Jules
Jules took the
snake the
case
case.
from
Hmm.
McNabb. I didn't
I
like
see.
that at
I
all.
get
I
it.
thought it was like, "Really? Come on, son, don't do that."
That's a good
I
one.
didn't
Yep.
like it. What about a
Okay.
wait for it? Did you have a wait for it? I did not in this episode. I did not really have one.
I don't think I did. I mean, if I had to say something, I might say something with one of the cases, like the pirate case that Juliet was working on, but I don't think I really had one either. I
Okay.
didn't really have anything that really had me on the edge of my seat like that. So,
I definitely don't think there was a Henry lesson in this episode.
nope, there was one.
Okay.
He said that I think they were telling you what they wanted you to hear, not what you needed to hear. So, kind
Okay.
of like it's anti manipulation. Like you got to recognize better when someone might be trying to direct you to thinking something.
Yeah.
So I guess that could fall under there. Silly nicknames. We have one from Henry to Gus,
I love, love,
Methuselah.
love that Henry did it in this one. It
Mhm.
showed, like, a silly side of Henry, and, like, it was almost like a, "Look, kid, I get that you do this all the time, but I can do it too." You know,
Mhm.
it was kinda like a oh, I love that he did it in this one, and it was a good one. Methuselah Honeysuckle, that is a
Yeah,
good one.
that was a good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
following it up with I must. So that makes me Old Scratch Johnson. Like he got in on it. That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite quote from this episode was from Gus, "You know, being wrongfully convicted is the tragic way my story ends."
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, that was a good one.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
There was a couple of good little quick bits. There's a lot of quick bits in this one. I
Yeah.
think my favorite was the boxed one. Where he's like, "Dude,
Oh.
what's in the box? Like, do you think it's a room like the catacombs from Raiders or like there's stuff in there, man?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite
Like
bit.
he couldn't stand not seeing it.
Mhm. Had to know what was in the
Yeah,
box.
that was a good one.
All right, pop culture references. What do we got this episode?
Not as many as I expected, which was a little disappointing. I think it was really more of a feel thing in this episode, not specific. So there are a couple of things that were just sort of like a take on things, but okay, let's get into it. So Ted Lange, I never say this guy's name right. Ted Lange, he is best known for his role as Isaac the bartender on Love Boat that aired from 1977 to 1987, but he is still acting today, and he played Pookie in this episode. Phil Collins, they reference to, he is a amazing singer songwriter, did so well, so many hits in the 80s and 70s. He was the drummer for Genesis, singer for Genesis. Anyway, the song that they referenced was also Invisible Touch. Oh, it's just really, really good references. And he does look a little bit like Corbin Burnson. Raiders of the Lost Ark was referenced. That was the Indiana Jones movie from 1981 starring Harrison Ford. National Treasure was referenced. That was a treasure hunter movie from 2004 starring Nicolas Cage. Pookie, I believe, was a play on Huggy Bear from the Starsky and Hutch series. And also, the car that they were in was a Mercury Cougar, but it is the same body style as the Gran Torino, like in the Starsky and Hutch movie. It was like the Mercury, Ford and Mercury, same company, and they had the two cars. Anyway, let's see. Starsky and Hutch aired from 1975 to 1979. So they definitely had a little bit of play on in this kind of show. It was kind of like in the episode that was all about John Hughes movies. This movie was like it brought in, or this particular episode brought in like a lot of those 70s shows. The next one is Shaft. So that was a movie in 1971, a TV show 73 to 74. several movies have been made since then as well, but that's where you got that banter where they go back and forth and he says, "Shut your mouth." That whole thing was a playoff of Shaft. And the end, we heard a song, the Car Wash song by Rose Royce, and that was from 1975. That song has been played in so many movies and TV shows, but it was from 1975. So that's what we got. The fashion in this episode was so spot on for 70s, and just really, yeah, the disco, just that was a fun one. It was a fun episode.
Yeah. And it was a very unique theme too. Like you can tell this episode from any other episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's also, I have to tell you, like a sleeper episode for me because it's one of those where like I didn't really remember it being as funny as it was.
Mhm. I
We've had a
kinda had a
couple of those
different
in
one.
the series.
I felt like it was that there was some stuff that was left out. Like, I feel like there was more funny. I thought that there was more jokes and more bits in this one than there really was. I was
Oh,
expecting this
see.
one to be a five-star one because I for whatever reason, I thought that maybe it was just because of how unique the theme was. I thought that this one had more in it. Yeah, so I was kinda surprised that, I misremembered it. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be between a 4 and a 5, but this time it was between a 3 and a 4. So, yeah. And lastly, does this episode hold up over time?
I think it
I think
does.
inherently it does just because it's an
Yeah.
old it's already
It's already a throwback.
like a throwback episode. So yeah, now it's just even more of a throwback, but still works because that was also a
Yeah.
unique time too, the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think was so unique that everybody's at least a little bit interested in it when one of those episodes comes along. So
I think it's like second to the 80s. To me, when I look back at like decades that almost like that you can characterize,
mhm,
if that makes any sense. Like you can definitely, when you think 80s, there are certain things that just automatically come into play that are very clear.
yeah,
And and the 70s is second to the 80s to me in that category. So, I don't know, it feels like to me from the 2000s moving forward, there's not, like, specific things in a decade that really super stand out to me. It's everything from 2000 forward just sort of feels the same. But
mhm.
maybe that's just me because I'm, like, older now, but I don't know. I don't I think the 70s was like a character in and of itself in this
Especially
episode.
clothing wise.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
Like,
That's
we've
very
had some
true.
fads and stuff over the years, whether it's between, like, pop culture or, like, little things like jelly bracelets or, fidget spinners, like, but as for
Yeah.
like, something as unique as clothing hasn't changed in the last 20 years, I don't think too much.
Yeah.
Not nearly as unique or distinct as the '70s to the '80s to the or the '70s to the
Well,
'90s,
and then
so
the 90s clearly had their thing too with, like,
mhm,
Birkenstocks and baby doll dresses and whatever, but, like, it for sure, the 70s and 80s are, like, the pivotal decades for that stuff, so,
yeah,
yeah. So, but I think it held up. I don't think there was anything in it that's, super dated it, so, yeah, that was
mhm.
good. On the next episode, we are gonna be discussing season 3, episode 6, There Might Be Blood.
Make sure you guys check out our Facebook group and our subreddits. Again, the links are down below in the description. Post a comment there if you had any thoughts about this episode, and also to get updates about when new episodes drop, as
Mhm.
well as the occasional trivia question that we put out there.
Yep. And you can email us at our Gmail, which is the psychpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Tell us what you thought of our take. And thank you again for those of you who send us, messages and thoughts and things about the episodes. Until next week, guys, have a good one.
Bye.